A while back, I gave a speech called The Best Bad Dog. It was about our border collie Mallory, who was disobedient, rude, left a trail of destruction wherever she went, but who nevertheless we loved like she was our own child. But I left a big part of that story out. About a year after we got Mallory, we were finally starting to get the hang of being border collie owners. We were getting used to it. My wife Charisse was volunteering at the rescue group where we got Mallory, and the rescue group asked us a huge favor. They said, "We have a dog who really needs you." It was a young border collie by the name of Shiner Bark. He was rescued from the shelter just hours away from being euthanized. They had found a home for him, but then he was returned almost immediately because he had destroyed their coffee table. What they needed was someone to take him in as a foster and give him a sense of stability and kindness for a few weeks or a few months until they found a new home for him. So we took Shiner in. The first thing I noticed about Shiner is that he had an insane amount of energy, maybe even more than Mallory, and that was really saying something. Shiner's saving grace, though, is that he was a real sweetheart. He just wanted to be loved and he wanted to play, and that was it. The other thing we noticed about Shiner is that he came with a whole array of baffling and oddly specific neuroses. Let's see. He was afraid of the gutters along the sides of streets. He was afraid of front-loading washing machines and yellow extension cord. Not black or orange, just the yellow. We had no way of knowing what trauma he suffered earlier in his life that led him to be afraid of these things. We just knew that we needed to steer him clear of these scary things and give him the comforting illusion that the world was a safe and kind place. The first thing we needed to do was find Shiner a job. Border collies always need a job, preferably not something like guard the coffee table while we're out. It needed to be something that burned off that excess energy. So I taught Shiner to catch a frisbee. Now, I had done this with Mallory and she was pretty good at it, but Shiner was awesome. He loved the frisbee. He was obsessed with the frisbee. Once he saw dogs on television catching a frisbee, and he got so excited that he ran up and knocked the TV over. Shiner could have been a champion frisbee dog, except for a couple of issues. After he caught the frisbee, he liked to fold it in half like a taco, and then while holding it in his mouth, he would prance around and wave it in the air, and it made him look like he had had unsuccessful brain surgery. It's a little embarrassing. So with Shiner adding skills to his resume and becoming more confident, he started to get more interest among potential adoptees. But we didn't want a repeat of the last time. We didn't want him to get returned again, because that's really hard on a dog. So we were brutally honest with the potential adoptees about what kind of dog they were getting. We would say, life as you know it is going to be over. This dog was going to take all of their time and energy and money to keep happy and satisfied. One by one, the potential adoptees all dropped out. So in the meantime, we kept Shiner busy. We signed him up for sheep herding, what he was bred to do. Now, Shiner did okay in sheep herding if the sheep were docile, which they were most of the time. But sometimes he would approach some unfamiliar sheep and they would come at him with an energy like, "Who are you?" And Shiner would say, sorry, I don't want any trouble. And he would exit stage left. So sheep herding wasn't really for him. Next, we signed him up for agility. Now, by this time, my wife, Charisse, was his full-time handler. And the two of them were a great team in agility. The very first time they ran agility, they not only qualified, but they got first place. Meanwhile, I was running Mallory, and we were disqualified within seconds. I mean, it looked like a random dog and a random dude wandered onto the course and started running around in circles. But Charisse and Shiner developed an incredibly close bond. They were very close to each other, even when they weren't just running agility. Now, Shiner could have been a champion at agility, except that Charisse ran like the typical housewife, and Shiner ran like grease lightning shot out of a cannon. So there was a disparity in their speed, and Charisse constantly found herself out of position to tell Shiner the next obstacle to take. So he was frequently spinning around and barking at her as if to say, "Hurry up, old woman." But in spite of that, they were very, very close. Shiner eventually found his forever home. It was with us. The rescue group gave up, threw up their hands, and just said, "You just keep Shiner. We'll waive the adoption fee." So we kept him. Now, I don't expect you to think that this story is an inspiration because we were the heroes that stepped in and saved Shiner, because he gave us so much over the 13 years that we had him. He filled our lives with joy and laughter and love during that time. Now, I'm not going to tell you how Shiner's story ends. Instead, I'm going to direct you to YouTube, and if you will do a search for Shiner Bark, hopefully you will find a tribute video that I created for Shiner that will give you a really good idea of what kind of dog he was. In the meantime, I had Shiner for 13 years. I'm still worn out. I need to sit down.